Whoa! Hey, shalom everybody. I just want to make a real quick video here to answer a simple question that a lot of people will ask this time of year. Is baking soda leavening that we should remove from our homes for Passover and during the week-long feast of unleavened bread? The quick answer is no. Baking soda is not leavening, at least not the biblical definition of leavening. It may be labeled as such in the ingredients, like if you're reading a can of something and it says leavening and in parentheses it says baking soda, well, that's what makes it rise when it's cooked, but it's not the biblical form of leavening, okay? Now let me go into the answer of why I said this. First of all, let's see what the dictionary says about leavening. Leavening, noun, also called leavening agent, a substance used to produce fermentation in dough or batter, leaven. The act or process of causing to ferment by leaven, just like wine. You make wine with yeast. You don't use baking soda, right? Baking soda and baking powder are chemical leaveners, not natural leaveners like yeast is. A little bit of baking soda isn't going to leaven a whole lump like yeast will. If you take some dough that has baking soda in it, if you take a little pinch off of that baking soda dough and stick it in another wad of dough with no yeast in it, it's not going to do anything to it. It's not going to leaven that lump at all. But if you take a little bit of dough that's made with yeast, you pull a little bit of that off of there and put it in an unleavened lump of dough, well, that yeast is going to grow and it's going to leaven that whole lump. That's because yeast is a living organism that comes into the bread or comes into the dough just by being in the world for a while, just by being in the air. If you ever made sourdough bread, and if you ever had to make your own starter from scratch, and if no one ever gave you a little bit of their starter, you leave it sit out until it starts to smell a little bit sour, and then you know the yeast from the air got into it just from being in the world, and that's why it's so symbolic, okay? Now back in the day, the children of Israel time, they didn't have Fleischmann's dried yeast to buy in the store. They had to, save little pinches from their leavened dough. But they had to leave in such a hurry, and they were told to leave all that behind. It was very symbolic of coming out of Egypt and leaving everything that they acquired for being in the world. In Egypt, or Mitzrayim is a metaphor for the world. And they needed 40 years in the wilderness to get to Egypt or the world out of them as they were being trained by Yahuwah before they were going to go into the promised land. Okay? The Father said his word is to remain pure. And that's why we have unleavened bread, or bread, pure bread, symbolic of his pure word, during that feast of unleavened bread that directly follows Passover, okay? We keep any leavening out like we would keep any corruption out of his word that would change it into something else. Now, leavening doesn't represent sin, as some would have you believe, but it represents traditions or doctrine, false doctrine of man that can lead you to sin when it changes that word into something else. It is also written that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds forth from the mouth of Elohim. We need Yahuwah's pure, unchanged word, free of the false leaven of the world that would change his word into something else, something other than what Elohim intended for us. Yeast will slowly grow and multiply and make its way through that whole lump and thereby leaven the whole lump. Baking soda, not going to do this, okay? Baking soda is not biblical leavening. I just wanted to clear that issue up for anybody who may be asking that. I get asked a lot of questions around this time of year. People, hey, do we need to get that out of our house? No. You make sure you get all the leavening with yeast out of your house. Get rid of all that. This is a feast of unleavened bread, so you also have to eat unleavened bread for the whole week, okay? That's the commandment. Not just getting the yeast out, but you have to eat the unleavened bread too for that whole week. So I just wanted to clarify that. So just wanted to make a quick video on this. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for all your likes and shares and forwards, and pass this one around to anyone who you think may be blessed by it. Everybody have a great day, and shalom.